Hi everyone, Effie here. Today I made this watercolored card using our Morning Glory Garden stamp. This is a 6x6 red rubber stamp that came out a few years ago. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. So I decided to take it out of my stash and just create a watercolored project for today. So I started off by rose gold heat embossing this beautiful image using our rose gold embossing powder. And I embossed it on some watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL 140-pound paper. For my watercolors, I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant Watercolors. I'm using Persimmon, Alpine Rose, I think it's grass green, lemon yellow, and that's it. There's a blue on my palette, but did I use that on this card? I don't believe I did. These are the same colors that I used on another card that I just posted. So I had the paints on my palette, so I just decided to go with the same color palette. For my brushes, I'm using two Pentel Aqua brushes. These have these empty chambers in them that you can fill up with water, and they're very practical to use. So I'm using a fine tip brush, and I believe it's a medium tip brush that I'm using since the areas that I'm painting for the Morning Glories, some of the areas are rather large. So I like to use a larger brush to help me blend the color out. So as I paint, I'm going to use a wet on wet watercolor technique. I start off by wetting the area that I want to paint first with some clean water. Usually I use the larger tip brush to do this. And then I take my fine tip brush, I dip this into my watercolor paint, and then I'll just start dropping in or adding bits of pigment to the areas that I want to paint. So I start off with the Persimmon watercolor paint, and then I go in with a little bit of Alpine Rose to add a bit of shading. The Alpine Rose is going to add the darker warm color to my Morning Glory. So I add the persimmon first, and I color about half of my Morning Glory with the persimmon, and then I will add a little bit of the Alpine Rose into the centers of the Morning Glories. Then I add a little bit of the lemon yellow towards the tips of my Morning Glory petals, and this way I get a nice three-tone floral for my card today. However, I only add the Alpine Rose to the three Morning Glories in the center of my panel. There are other Morning Glories in this background stamped image, but the Morning Glories that are surrounding the three main ones in the center, I just color those Morning Glories in with just the persimmon and the lemon yellow because I want the focus to be on the larger florals in the image. Once I'm finished painting the floral petals, I'm going to go ahead and paint the leaves using a combination of the grass green and lemon yellow paints. And I use the same wet on wet watercolor painting technique. So I go in with a little bit of the green, and then I blend the green out a little bit, and I add the yellow, and I'll kind of just blend the two together. Once I finish painting the entire panel, I'm going to set it aside to dry completely, and then I'll be doing some die cutting. I'm going to take the two largest dies from our double stitch rectangles large die set, and I'm just going to cut out a border frame. For this video, I actually cut the two die pieces separately. Usually I'll cut them together by keeping the two dies actually taped together. I don't know why I took them apart, but usually I'll just do it all in one pass, and that makes it much, much easier. So once I finished die cutting, I just took that border frame and I popped it up onto an A2 size panel using some dimensional foam tape. And then I adhered that inner piece right into the base using some strong double-sided adhesive. This is from our double-sided adhesive sheets that I like to use with our watercolor paper since it's nice heavy-duty adhesive. Then I took our XOXO die. This could be used as a standalone die because it just cuts out the XOXO shape, but it also can coordinate with our XOXO mini stamp. So I die cut the XOXO from white cardstock, and then I adhered it right onto my watercolor panel. Then lastly, I used our clear dewdrops and I adhered those on to my panel using some multi-matte medium. And the card is now complete. I hope you enjoyed today's watercolored video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.